Here we are.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coach's Corner. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. Let's do another applause. There we go. Hopefully, everyone is all well and having a fantastic weekend. And this is Coach's Corner, and we've been really talking about Price Pritchard's U Squared book and really diving into the concepts being shared there about quantum leaps. Today is a subject that I connect with a lot, as most of you probably know, and my colleagues know as well. And they connect with it as well because they understand it. And that's what it's all about, getting an understanding, not only of yourself, but the laws of our being and how we're connected to everything and the results that we have in our life. So my name is Jamel Matias. I'm a certified mindset success coach / business consultant, founder of Believe in the Unseen Consulting, based in the Maryland area. My purpose is to reveal the hidden potential that's already within you and just guide you to your truest desires. It's all about believing in that goal, believing in whatever destination that you want to create. Trained by the legend Bob Proctor, as well as my peers. And I help hardworking but unfulfilled professionals who know they're capable of more, yet feel stuck in a cycle of effort without progress and lacking clarity or direction and the positive mental programming, needed to create the income and freedom and life they truly desire. And I'm all about personal development and personal growth. And I love this material because it's changed my life. So I'll pass it on to the birthday guy, Paul.
Ladies first. Thank you, Jamel. My name is Paul Wooters. I'm in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. I'm a Proctor Gallagher consultant, success mindset, mentor and coach, author, speaker. I'm the head of the Leadership and Development Department at the World Life Education Center in high school. And I help people, individuals, set a really worthy goal for themselves to help you stretch and unlock your potential, to reshape your self-image, change the direction of your life, and live your life with intention and by design. And as I like to say, to live to your greatest possibilities. And I'm going to pass this on to my colleague and friend, Lou.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jamel. And early happy birthday to Paul. Paul's birthday is tomorrow. And a shout out to Alicia, who is traveling and won't be able to join us today. So welcome, everyone. We appreciate and grateful that you are here, whether you're live or catching the replay. So my name is Lou Perica. I too am a success mindset mentor and founder of Prosperous Results. And I help growth-minded women and professionals become more self-led so they can grow beyond any of their self-doubt, their overwhelm, old conditioning, and start building results and experiences and opportunities that reflect who they choose to be. Because real transformation doesn't happen when someone else leads your life. It happens when you start to lead yourself, right? When decisions become stronger than your fears, when your vision becomes greater than any of your circumstances, and when you stop waiting for permission and start trusting your own inner wisdom. And today I'm excited because we are going to be discussing relying on unseen forces. And perhaps unseen forces are not something outside of us, but they're activated by the decisions that we make within us. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation with my colleagues, and let's get started.
Wow. Yes, I'm excited. Let's get started.
Yay!
Wow. And you know what a great way to start this particular set? I'm so unpredictable, aren't I?
You are.
Lou, let's sing happy birthday for Paul on camera. Let's do it. I know it'll be out of sync, but happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you.
you.
Happy birthday to
to
you.
you. Happy
Happy birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear Paul.
Paul. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Woo!
Happy birthday, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's how you get it started, right? You know, it's so awesome. It's interesting. Your birthday's close to Bob's. I didn't know that. Bob's is July 5th, I believe, right? Bob Proctor. So, you know, celebrate life. That's what it's all about, right? Celebrate life. And this is what we talk about. We get excited because it helps you create the life that you want. You know, you have a happy birthday here in the comments there, Paul. Look at that. You know? And yeah, thank you.
Jason?
Jason or Jason, I believe. Thank you. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We have a lot of people here live with us, you know, and this is a subject that I love because I had to kind of unlearn a lot of things that I learned through my life, just relying on our senses, what you see, hear, smell, and taste and touch. And there's things that, you know, operate without our awareness sometimes. Well, not sometimes, it's always operating. And, you know, that's kind of how I came across in my studies to name, you know, my consultant company, Believe in the Unseen. And this chapter is Rely on the Unseen Forces. And one of the beautiful quotes, just to say it here, is absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So really listen to that. Absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. So there's always something happening beyond what we can see with our eyes. And it's something to really marvel at, right? And understand. So he starts here, improving your performance by an order of magnitude, U squared can sound unrealistic if you think of it as something you have to do all by yourself. Major. Hello. Thanks for joining us. So improving your performance. And U squared, remember, it's you multiplied by you. And we as human beings, we're unlimited beings with unlimited potential. So how do you square something that's unlimited? Right? So that's almost beyond the imagination. And he says it can sound unrealistic. I know a lot of people are probably like, how can I multiply myself by myself? Like, what is a quantum leap? How can I do that? And that's where the logical mind tries to come in. And a lot of our limiting beliefs come in, right? And also our self-image, because we're so used to being what we've been for so long. And so he says, if you think of it as something you have to do all by yourself, so you're not doing this by yourself. You're not. You have one of the most powerful cosmic partners in the world, in the universe, basically bending for you. And then here comes the law of cause and effect. The outside is like clay, and you're the person or the being molding it. And as you're creating this sculpture, if you will, that's the sculpture of your life. And you can do it consciously or unconsciously, right? You're just walking around having thoughts, random thoughts, and other people's consciousness shape you, or your thinking and your beliefs, and then you'll just create based on that belief. So really think about that. What statue or what are you sculpting, right? And we can switch it to you being the star of your own movie. What movie are you writing? What movie are you? We were just watching last night, Sly, about Sylvester Stallone, about his his story of how he wrote Rocky and
It's
how
amazing. I watched that.
beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So he defined his life by his thinking and his beliefs. He sculpted his life, and it changed like that. And like one day when that movie released, his whole life changed. And it was interesting to hear the stories beforehand, so good. And we haven't finished it. I fell asleep because on camera a lot and calls, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, I'll stop there and pass it on because this subject is so essential to understand.
Yeah. Paul?
Yeah, it is really incredible in this. I like this chapter because, up to now, if you've been following, what the author has been saying throughout is that he's challenged our conventional thinking, common sense, disbelief, and our need to know how. Right? You have a goal, you set something, and we get into this analysis paralysis where we have to know the how. But he's encouraged us to move without knowing the how. And Bob has always taught us that as well, right? You have to know what you want, where you want to go, and don't concern yourself with the how. So he's introducing here that much of what drives extraordinary achievement is unseen, as Jamel was saying. People put too much trust in what they currently see, and and too little trust in these invisible forces that we're talking about that really help shape outcomes. So what are they? So what are these unseen forces? So there's belief, and Jamel was saying, believe in the unseen. You have to have that belief. An expectation, a positive expectation. Why is our default always on that something bad is going to happen? Start being excited about what good thing might happen. Our imagination, use our imagination. Talked about this last week. We use our imagination too often against ourselves rather than for the things that we really want. Our commitment to our goal and our commitment to our vision, our attitude that we bring every day. Are we following our intuition? That's really huge, is our intuition, that gut feeling and listening to the signs that the universe is sending out to us that we see. Faith. We've often talked about, faith and fear both demand that you believe in something you can't see, right? So now it's just a matter of you to choose. So choose faith, have that vision and take the steps necessary to follow your vision. And so these are things that are all invisible, right? They're invisible, but they really determine the visible results that we see. And he's saying that every achievement first exists in the mind before it exists in the world. We've talked about that before. Everything you see first was a thought, first was an idea in somebody's mind, first was a concept. And most people, they're waiting for evidence before they believe. They'll say, I'll believe it when I see it. How often have you heard that? Or show me the proof. Or once the circumstances improve, you ask people, like, when are you going to move towards that goal, that thing you wanted to do? And they'll say, well, the circumstance. Once the circumstance improved, then I'll act. But really, we're being reminded here to, people that make these quantum leaps, they believe before they see, and they take that action step. All right, they become committed to their vision before they see the substantial evidence that it can be achieved. Lou, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, those unseen forces. So before I started studying with Bob and really introduced to all this material, again, and I've said this many times, I never gave it any thought. Unseen forces. I was just going by what my five senses were telling me. and whatever circumstance or condition I happen to be experiencing at a certain point in time. But when you think about, so this morning I was walking the beach, and as I'm walking, I'm looking at, so the tide was going out, so there's these little crabs on the beach, or a clam, or some seaweed, whatever. And I'm looking at the sand, and I'm looking at the ocean, and I'm looking at the sky, and I'm looking at, actually, it was a very foggy morning. And I thought to myself, we are all made from the same thinking stuff, right? We talked about the thinking stuff when we covered Wallace Wattles' book, The Science of Getting Rich. And as I'm walking, I was thinking, we're all made from the same stuff. Yet, as I'm walking, I'm the only one really thinking, right? I'm the only one that can really imagine. I'm the only one that can really make a choice. And where does that all come from? So it made me realize that we are nature. We are nature. We're just the highest form of nature, at least on this planet, that we are aware of. So where does a thought come from? When we get an idea to start a business or do something we've never done before, where does that thought or idea or download come from? Right? It comes from the unseen forces that are helping us to grow, that have given us the ability and the choice and our five senses and our intuition and all of those things that we can actually think. We give meaning to life. We feel, we have emotions. We're able to act or behave and get results, and we can choose, and then we can re-choose just depending on what those results are. But yet the crab and the clam and the seagull, they can't do that. So where is all of this ability coming from? From the stuff that created us. So if this stuff created us with all these extra abilities that the clam or the seagull doesn't have, then it must be guiding me. It must be helping me to live and to create and build a life that I choose, that I prefer, that I want to experience, knowing that I can't do it on my own. I have friends, I have family, I have colleagues. Those are my physical people that I can reach out to. There are people that I've yet to meet. There are books I've yet to read, movies I've yet to watch, all helping me and giving me ideas, my imagination. But these are all things, but I had to become, it wasn't until my awareness changed first. I have to be aware that there are, and I love where he says it here, there are resources you can access that cannot be seen, and they are far greater and more powerful than the resources you might readily observe. And I think about, Bob always used that analogy of the acorn, right? And many times when I go and I do a speaking event or a training, I bring an acorn, because that acorn is just an acorn. It doesn't even know, it doesn't have the awareness that it's going to be an oak tree, right? But within the nucleus, there is a planned program already. That acorn just needs to make its way to the soil. And then from there, unseen forces, right, are within that acorn and surrounding that acorn. So within that nucleus, there's a vibration. And once that acorn reaches the soil, that vibration starts to attract from the earth everything it needs for that acorn to start to sprout. But the acorn doesn't know this. The acorn doesn't have to have faith and belief, right? When it becomes a mighty oak tree, it doesn't have to have faith and belief. It just is. But we have the power. So I was thinking as I was walking, because it really is a great reminder, if that acorn can become a mighty oak tree, and all the resources needed for that acorn to become a beautiful oak tree, then that same power that created that acorn created me and gave me intelligence and the ability to choose. That is even more than just having faith. It's an obvious knowing. It's an obvious knowing. It's just, I have to get out of my own way to allow the forces to support me. And this is where, because we're a triune being, right? So we know we're spirit, we're having a human experience, we have the power and the intellect of a mind. And these three things at times can. So this is where having the faith, but also knowing. And knowing can be something is much deeper than just faith, in my opinion. But they work together. Even though I know, sometimes voices, right, or my five senses will tell me something differently. I may have a conversation with someone or read something, and it will throw me off track. Right? And this is where it's like having faith in my knowing that there are unseen forces guiding and supporting us all ways, in all ways. Jamel.
You know that was coming. Wow. Wow, both of you. That's amazing. Speaking of guiding in all ways, if you're here watching or listening, we want to guide you to whatever it is that you want. You know, this material is extremely powerful. And if it resonates with you and you want more out of your life, whatever area, money, success, professional, you know, whatever, reach out to one of us. Our call links are in the description. So set up a no obligation call and we can see if we can help you with this. All right. And if you're here live, I see a lot of people here live. Thanks for joining and being here. You know, feel free to drop, questions or comments, because we love to hear from you and we love to help you with this material. So, wow, where do I pick up from there, right? So my wheels were turning as you were sharing there, because you said so many beautiful things. And what I really love, what Bob talks about a lot, is the animals, right? I always go to this one. It says the animals they're totally comfortable in their environment.
Mm.
You know, and I was talking on a live looking at the duck in our pond. It's like a lake across the street. And I was just observing them. I'm like, look how easy they glide and land and they take off, and how easy they swim in the pond. And they're totally comfortable in their environment. And, you know, there's frogs that were jumping out of there. Frogs are funny. They're silly to me, but you observe them as well. You know, they'll get out of your way sometimes if they're comfortable in their little mud, you know, pit or whatever, or wet grass. They like wet grass, I noticed, because when I water the grass, they actually hop across the street and they'll come over and like, oh, Jamel's watering his lawn. Okay. So they're totally comfortable in their environment. They can sense the water, right? So look at us. We're totally disoriented in our environment, right? We have different features, different DNA, we're totally disoriented. It's because we can create our own environment. We can create our own environment. And these unseen forces are part of that creation, whether we understand it or not. And it's always operating for us, right? So, and it's funny because I just looked at a quote here, and it was exactly what you were talking about. It says, "It is not what you want that you attract." So a lot of us desire a lot of different things, right? It's you attract what you believe to be true. And this is why belief is essential to change and growth. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So without belief, it won't come into fruition. This is why belief is so important. And you can reevaluate your beliefs. You can always reevaluate your beliefs. And you can never outperform your belief system. So how in the world can you believe something that isn't here yet? So this is why the eyes and the ears and senses can be a gift and a curse. We've been born and conditioned to only rely on these things. And this is not usually taught in, schools, or I don't know, walking down the street. You don't hear somebody talking about rely on the unseen forces. You might think they're, a bit loony, right? But you have these gifts, you have these abilities, and you are a creative being that's extremely powerful. And if no one ever told you that, you just heard it. Let that be an awakening. And I want to back up. It's so funny how Lou finds exactly the part that I was going to say in the book. But right before what she read there, you don't have to do this by yourself, right? You don't have to try hard and create something by yourself. This is something that most of my life I wasn't aware, right? So it says, forget the idea that you should be able to see tangibly and in full view all the resources necessary to leverage your performance so dramatically. So forget the idea. Forget it, right? You don't have to see it, right? That you should be able to see tangibly in full view all the resources necessary, right? To leverage your performance so dramatically. So this is where you're choosing faith, knowing that you're being guided as you take a step. Action is required. You have to have inspired action. You have to take a step in faith rather than doubt and fear and worry, which is the opposite side of faith. And he says, oh, there it is. Absence of evidence is not evidence of their absence, right? He says, think of an iceberg. I love that. Where you see only the tip of what's really there, right? Just as real, though, out of sight, are invisible resources ready to make a profound difference in what you can achieve. So it's the iceberg theory. All you have to do is open up and let them in. Let them in. And this starts when you start taking action through fear. You grow through fear. And as you're growing through fear, you're constantly revealing these invisible, you're actually connecting with it even more. So, I love that. Quantum leaps are merely the process of using yourself and your world differently, thus allowing the other possibilities that exist to actually take. Your willingness to make a quantum leap is the enabler. Oh, your willingness to make a quantum leap is the enabler. So are you willing to believe in what you don't see? Not the negative, right? And this is where imagination, you can use it effectively or ineffectively. You're using it effectively when you believe in the goal that you want, what you desire, and what you choose. So that's a couple things that came to mind there.
That's great, Jamel. I love that. And I'm going to go back a little bit to what Lou was saying about the seed. And the seed analogy it's really good. And it's a really useful way to help understand this chapter is through that analogy. Like when you plant a seed, when a seed is planted, right, nothing visible happens immediately. You put it in the ground, you don't uncover it and take a look. You don't keep looking at it. Nothing visible happens immediately, but activity is occurring beneath the surface right when you put it in there. Right? It's not occurring that, like Lou said, she holds up an acorn. It doesn't know what it wants to be. An oak tree doesn't know what, but within that seed is the DNA, everything that's required to help it grow. You don't see that, and it has to be planted in the soil. So this unseen development, once it's put in the soil, eventually produces visible growth, but not immediately. And so a lot of goals, work the same way. There's actually progress happening before there's external proof. And so people who rely only on visible evidence, those are the ones that too often quit too soon, right? They're not seeing the evidence. They're not seeing the result. They don't really realize that things are happening. So you have to trust these internal forces. So you have to, what is that? What are these internal forces? Well, you have to trust your intuition. You have to trust the creative ideas that come to your mind. And as Lou was saying earlier, walking on the beach, where do these ideas come from? Right? We have we have the ability to choose and to think, and it's what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom, right? What is our inner conviction? What do you really, really want? What is your vision? What do you feel your purpose is? What inspires you? Where does that inspiration come from? What is it that really ignites you? And what is your vision? And everyone has a different vision, right? So use your imagination. So, and you take those things and then you start to take action. You don't take, it's not about blind faith. Bob would talk about, blind faith isn't work anything, because when you don't see something, then, you just give up on it. So you don't act blindly, but you have enough inner conviction. You have enough inspiration. You believe in your vision. It's enough to take some kind of action. And breakthroughs begin, with an idea that has not very much external validation. If you wait, or if a person waits for certainty before they act, you're going to miss opportunities, and it does require a little bit of courage, yes, and it does require your imagination, but use your imagination for your good. So it's really difficult sometimes, because our natural conditioning teaches us to trust the data, trust the facts. Here's the visible proof. And those are really valuable. You can't, just discard those or ignore those. They're really valuable. But when you want to take a quantum leap, that requires action before, complete proof exists. And that's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable because the outcome is uncertain. Right? Other people might not understand, and you're not getting the support from people or the understanding from people, your friends or people that are close to you. And Lou and I have talked about this often, the people that are really close to you, you're thinking you want support from them. They're not understanding what you're doing, and your results are not appearing immediately. So this growth requires becoming comfortable with this uncertainty. So becoming comfortable with this, discomfort. And you think that there is a real connection here to what Bob Proctor taught us, with self-image and paradigms. And he would say, like, the invisible causes are what create the visible effects. And, Bob taught us that results are visible, right? But your paradigm is invisible. Your self-image is invisible. Your beliefs are invisible. But those are unseen factors that really determine to a great extent what appears in your life. And so I think the author in this chapter is making a similar statement. If you want a different result, pay attention to those invisible forces that actually precede those results.
Wait, Wait.
Okay.
There we go. I found it. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Liz.
Well, I don't know what this is called, but as soon as Jamel mentioned action, you must take action. I love this little thing. I don't know what they're called. But if it just sits on my shelf, it just sits there.
Mhm.
Ain't nothing happening, right? But once I move one, right? The law of cause and effect. I moved one moved. Two didn't move, one did. So how does that happen? I took the action and invisible forces go to work by law. The ether, there's magic in the ether. So when you have the thought, so I think Paul was just talking about, I know I heard self-image, perhaps beliefs, and something else. You were saying that you can't see them, right? They're invisible, right? Because your beliefs and the image you hold of yourself are within. However, they are expressed in physical form, right? How we show up, our conversations, what we believe is possible. So I like to think about we've all heard this example before. You want a red sports car, right? And maybe you thought about it in the past, or you're just contemplating having a certain type of red sports car, for an example. Because now you're thinking about this red sports car, they always were around,
Mhm.
but now you've become aware that, geez, I think I'd like to have this type of red sports car. And we start seeing it, but they were always there. We've all experienced this type of thing, right? So it's our awareness. So this is why getting quiet and deciding what it is that you truly want to experience during your journey. This is why it's so important to take the time to sit down with yourself, get very quiet. We do an exercise where you write out like a shopping list of all the things that you would truly love to experience during this journey. And then you choose that one thing. We say sometimes two, but even two, because that can split your focus, right? So I believe one thing at a time for me, because I can focus more on that one thing instead of splitting that energy. So what was I getting at? Oh, so the point is that the cars are always there. Opportunities are always there. Resources are always there. But we're just not aware because our focus is kind of everywhere, right? It's distributed everywhere. We're looking at this, we're looking at that. But this is why having a goal or something that you truly love or something that you truly want to experience or something that you truly want to contribute to society narrows that your focus, your attention, where you're not distracted by a lot of the things that our five senses are constantly bringing into us. And I know this, and I think I can speak for my colleagues as well. This helps tremendously because there's a lot of data coming in through our five senses. And until we can take that power and focus it on something that we truly want, and let's just say the red sports car, this is when we start to notice the opportunities always there. Maybe it was old conversation that you had with someone years ago that you didn't think much about, but for whatever reason, it kind of stayed on the back burner for whatever reason. And then you start, this is where synchronicities happen. You start to be able to put things together. But how does all of that happen? How does all of that happen? By law. By law. This is happening by unseen forces, by law. Not, I mean, I started the action, but it's law that's making it happen. So as Jamel was saying, yeah, we get to take action because we are the highest form of creation. We get to. When I look at those seagulls, right, and they're scouring the shore, they're looking for some crab or a clam, that is built in them. That's within, like Paul was saying, in their DNA. That's what they have to do in order to survive. We get to choose. We don't have to do anything. We get to choose so we can thrive. And there's a big difference. Like Jamel was saying, all the animals are comfortable in their environment. The seagulls are seagulling. That's all. The crabs are crabbing. The waves are waving. The fog is fogging. But I can choose how my day is going to go, at least plan it out, right? I get to choose to do that. So this is once again understanding why we have these gifts of being able to think, which is the highest function we're capable of. That alone kind of stopped me in my tracks because I never thought about it. I never really thought. I was just thinking, or at least as Bob would say, it was called mental activity, right? It wasn't actual thinking. It was mental activity. So understand why we all have these abilities and gifts, and it is to create and build a life that you prefer, that you want to experience. Jamel? I think Layla's, I can tell she's in the background.
Right. You know, it's nothing. Well, it's interesting because, you know, what you don't change in yourself, you pass on to your children, you know, and she loves to float around and hear this knowledge because she's very aware of the unseen forces.
Yeah.
You know, she's a very aware child, you know, and I'm so grateful she's learned a lot of this at an early age. Right. So and what it reminds me of a lot at her age, I used to say, I want to live forever and I want to be rich. Those are the two things I kept saying to myself. And we're all wealthy, right? Rich and wealthy. Don't get it confused. We all have these riches within us. And that's exactly what we're talking about, you know, and living forever. The more you develop yourself, you're able to have good beyond your own presence. So if you desire something more in your life, you know, that's exactly what we're talking about. And Lou shared taking an action. Just reach out to us, you know, because it's a conversation that helps give you clarity and also helps you get direction, and your awareness raises. Like you start knowing, oh, I can do that. Well, I am that actually, you know, and your awareness just raises more when you're around people that are living this material and applying it, you know. So whatever platform you're on, you attracted this video for a reason. You know, it wasn't an accident. The universe speaks to your spirit through us, and it wants you to take an action, you know, and it's uncomfortable probably for you. I know it was uncomfortable for all of us at one point, right? And we'll continuously get uncomfortable because we know what that does for us. So I'm going to jump back on. It's so amazing how you mentioned certain things that I was going to say. And let's go back to this acorn theory, right? The acorn is designed by DNA to turn into an oak tree. That's its purpose, right? A carrot, you plant a carrot, its purpose is to, I don't know, carrot seed is supposed to turn into a carrot. And there's something called is a gestation period between the seed and, you know, the fruition of it, the adulthood or whatever, seed to carrot, right? So what's really interesting, our beliefs in whatever thing that we want are the seeds to what we want to create. So we can plant anything. We can become anything we choose. It is the choice, though. And doing this on your own is nearly impossible. I wouldn't say impossible, but nearly impossible. This is why, you know, mentorship's important and vital to your success, and it speeds things up tremendously. So you have the ability to create whatever it is you want with belief. And that's what makes it different from an acorn to an oak tree, from a carrot seed to a carrot. You have the ability to create anything. And you also mentioned about how we have all these thoughts going on, right? And this allows us to improve the power of our will, to see an image on the screen of our mind of what we really want to create. And in this time that we're given here on this planet, right? So a lot of times we're using our thoughts in horrible ways that don't produce the results that we want. We focus on other people's success, right? We focus on the lack of things, like, oh, I didn't have that, or that didn't happen. And then sometimes we'll occasionally imagine what we do want, occasionally, right? So, and then you have all this mental noise, like social media, television. Social media is a tough one because you're inundated with random things flashing all over the place. And a lot of it is there's no substance there, right? And before you know it, you spent an hour, maybe two, of your precious time away from focusing on your goal and why you're here and your purpose and what you want to achieve, right? So all these senses, they're letting in data: see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And there are tons of data flowing through. It's like a lot of activity going on. And your mind, there's so much going on here. And a lot of times, these things go down into your subconscious mind over time. And when you start letting in certain things to shift your belief about who you are and what you're worthy of achieving, you stay stuck. And this is also known as a paradigm or limiting beliefs, right? And it creates your identity over time when you're stuck there, and you can't see a way out. You can't. And I've been there, and it's tough. And I had to face a lot of fear to be where I am now. So he said, you do not achieve your dreams, your full potential, through your own singular struggle. As mentioned earlier, neither raw effort nor sheer willpower is the answer. Trying as hard as you can will fall far short of taking you as far as you're capable of going. You must take advantage of the support systems you can't see. And then he goes on to say, in a sense, making the quantum leap is like playing bridge. You don't bid your hand alone. Your bidding is also based on the power of your partner's cards. Your partner's cards. What do you think your partner is? I mentioned this earlier. That's amazing because I said it before remembering this part. So it says you don't really get to see those cards until it's time to play them. But you trust that they will bring valuable strength to your own hand. Your partner is the universe. It's spirit, God, whatever religious background, right? This is why believing more in what you can't see is the key. That's the key to creation, belief. And if you go down all the, Bob mentioned all the, top religious doctrines, and belief is a foundation of all of them. So if you're not believing in yourself, that's a big one. I help some clients with that because they didn't believe in themselves. At some points I didn't. I was like, this is not happening. I'm trying so hard. And there's that try, right? It's effortless. And I love that where they talk about, look at the planets, our solar system, right? Look at the clouds and how the weather operates so effortlessly. The same energy that's in the stars and that holds our planets together is within you. There's nothing separate. And this is exactly what it's talking about. So what are you doing with this gift? Are you relying on the unseen forces? Or are you neglecting them and not understanding them? So, it's very important to find an accountability partner. And that's what we are, in a sense, for you to really utilize your gifts. Thanks, Paul. Lou's writing. Oh, she's ready.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jamel. That was so good.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna add a bit. The people that, and I can't, underscore this enough, or we can't underscore this enough. People that are making these quantum leaps, they're acting, on their vision before they have this evidence. Okay, they're trusting the possibilities before there's proof, and they remain committed, even though there's temporary, appearances looking like, hey, it's not working, and having an understanding that visible reality often is lagging behind the internal changes. I'm just going to use another example I used last week as well, because I coach springboard divers. And I had a class the other day of 6, finishing off the season, because now we're going into the summer program. And to the 6 of them, I said, okay, today I want each of you to choose to work on a new dive, a dive that you haven't done yet. And that's always scary. Like for most, I don't want to do that, or go to a different height, go from 1 meter to 3 meter, 3 meter to 5, or something like that. And it's frightening. And we go through all the lead ups, and I don't send anybody up there. I'm not going to send you up somewhere if I don't think you can do it. So I can see, and I believe that you're ready, you can do it, but actually you have to go to the end of the board and you actually have to perform. You actually have to do it. So you have to believe internally that you can do it. In the end, at the end of the day, or at the end of the practice, all 6 of them completed a new dive, which is really rare. Like usually you get one person maybe does a new dive, or someone's working on, but other people, they don't. But all of them were able to achieve a new dive. I think it was just a huge, and they were so happy. They're so pumped about it, and they're pumped to see their teammates doing this. But they had to trust the possibilities before there was proof. There was no proof that they would, they'd never done that dive before. And for most of them, that what they see is, not being successful, is landing on their back, landing on their face, smacking, hurting themselves, not being able to do it. They're standing there, and they stand there. And the ones who stand there so long are standing there because they don't believe. They're afraid, right? But they all did it. And I said, I'm standing here as your coach, and I got you prepared for it, but you stood at the end of the board and you had to make a decision to go for it. You actually literally had to make a leap. not just figuratively. They had to literally make a leap. They had to, believe in themselves, believe in the process, trust themselves. There wasn't proof that they could do it. Maybe they had tried something before and they'd landed on their back. They'd smacked, they landed on their face. That's the proof they had. That's the proof they walked away with. But they had to trust that they were better now, that they can do it. So internally, they had to believe it. Internally, I get them to visualize doing it perfect. Doesn't matter if they've never done it perfect before. Doesn't matter. They have to see themselves doing it perfect now. They have to see themselves getting a 10 out of 10, even if they've only scored 5 out of 10 before. Doesn't matter. And they were all able to do it. So it's not about, ignoring reality. And we talked about this before too, what's realistic, because today's reality is not necessarily a predictor of tomorrow's reality. We know that throughout history, throughout inventions, throughout the advances that, mankind has made. And so the greatest forces that are shaping your future are often invisible long before they're visible. And so you really have to put your trust in that and trust in your vision and be committed to it and take those steps because you have it in you. If you've seen someone else do it, you can do it as well. Lou.
I love the your divers stories. I love when you share those. And so that's really interesting, right? Because you could see it in them. Again, you weren't setting them up for failure. You were setting them up for success, to start to believe in themselves, to be able to progress. So quantum leaps do happen. They exist. Quantum leaps exist. It's really our belief system that is putting the kinks in our growth. But I mean, when you think about like the cell phone, or we used the Wright brothers, right? How their father told them they were going to burn in hell. When you think about the cell phone, if you showed somebody, I don't know, that may be living in the 12th century, a cell phone, they would have thought it was some sort of black magic. They would have had you burned at the stake. But see, the idea always existed. It was a matter of people's beliefs and perception and starting to take action. So really, movement, the idea comes, the belief kind of may be wavering a little, but movement comes first. Those divers needed to get maybe on the next level of the dive board. They may not have believed they could do a new dive, but movement came first. And then through trial and error, but consistency and persistency, then confidence follows. So now you've got the movement and the confidence is starting to build. Support. There's Coach Paul. You've got it. Tweak this, tweak that. But now the diver has already started the process. Like Paul didn't have to still talk about their belief in a sense, because they started the process. Their confidence in themselves, believing that they can do this. Now Paul is coaching them a little bit differently. He's tweaking, he's giving them other types of support. And then momentum follows, right? Momentum starts to go, and they'll get up there more often until they nail it. But at the beginning, but Paul could see in them that they could do this. So think about our Creator. They've created us, or it created us, knowing you can do it. But it will never take away, like we have the power of choice, the power of will. We get to do the action. It will never force us, because that's why we have the gift of choice. Like Paul doesn't force his students, his divers. He shares his beliefs, he shares in them and helps them grow. So if you think about this unseen force, it's rooting for us, but it doesn't come speaking loudly. You don't get, Lou, go and do that, because it's given me, all of us, the ability to choose, to take action on our own. I think, Jamel, you had said, I just wanted, as we're wrapping up, live forever. Now, I know, like, spiritually, we live forever. We leave this physical body. But really, when you think about it, you want to live forever, right? But what's the point? That's why life is so perfect the way it is. You have X amount, but no one knows what that time frame may be. Because if you knew you were physically going to live forever, where's the rush? I'll do it in 300 years from now. There's no rush. But because we don't know. And that's what also makes life adventurous and exciting. So let's go out and do new things, just like Paul's divers, just like Jamel's daughter. I think, how old is Layla?
7.
7 years old. Oh my gosh, she's trying. I just saw she was in a dance recital in front of all kinds of people cheering her on. This is what life is about. And rest assured that there is unseen forces guiding us, supporting us, and encouraging us, but it will never get in our way of making choices and our choice to act. Jamel.
So good. So good. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Living forever, your vision, your goal, and what you can bring into this world can live far beyond you. That's your essence, living further than your physical body, right? Impacting people in a positive way, shifting the world in a positive way, revealing, this unlimited potential for other people. And it's so, I'm sure Paul's an amazing coach, because I hear having this knowledge and also being a coach is a winning combination. He's a coach's coach, if you will, So, and Lou, you mentioned, it's not like you're going to do this right now, do it. I see Bob saying that because he had different ways of coaching, right? He basically was speaking into your subconscious. And, I'll say this, what are you doing with your life? What goal do you really desire? What do you want to change? And this is exactly why we're here, for you to choose, to take action. And you can wish and hope and dream about it, but nothing changes until you take that first step. And I always say that it's the start that stops most people. And speaking of most people, I talked to a couple people this week about their dreams and their goals, beautiful goals. And you have to have your goal stronger than your fear and doubt. Your goal is what's pulling you to your higher self. And your higher self is connected to these unseen forces. So why wait and why not? Right? You have to break out of that comfort zone and get off the couch, right? Get off that comfortable chair, stand up and walk, run, do something you haven't done in a long time or ever. I know we're a little over time, but this chapter, this will be a great close. He says the unseen forces are phantom powers that cannot be fully explained. Phantom powers, you can't see, right? Maybe they strike you as rather mystical phenomena, right? But the truth is, they will make amazing contributions to your efforts. So these unseen forces seem to operate through your subconscious mind, right? So you feel them. Mental imagery, that's visualization. Your intuition, you know, when you pray, you talk to God. And when you use your intuitive factor, it's God talking to you. And luck. That's a funny word. So you might be hit with a flash of inspiration during a moment of solitude. I get a lot of those, right? A creative solution to a problem may come to you in a dream. It'll tell you, right? A breakthrough idea can flash through your mind while you're visualizing your goal. Amazing. Somehow the resources you need just seem to appear by coincidence. That is such a powerful paragraph. And I really wanted to share that here because to tap in with what's being shared here, it just requires you to let go. Let go of your fear and choose your goal and just reach out to one of us. So we'll wrap up here. Quick announcement. Today is the final day of my live challenge, Create Your Own Reality. Today is day 7. So congratulations to everyone that made it to the final day. Congratulations. And if you want access to that, just go to my profile, Facebook, and I don't know, YouTube as well. You'll see a link to that, or just message me. We're talking about the self-image tonight, which is vital to understanding oneself even more. Any announcements there, Lou or Paul?
No, I don't think I'm going to be on next week, but other than that, that I think I'm good. Paul?
No real announcements, but just to highlight what we've talked about, you know, develop your confidence in what cannot yet be seen. You know, trust your vision, your commitment, and your potential, even when, you know, the external circumstances don't seem to be there.
Absolutely. Never let your current circumstance dictate your future. Never. And, you know, that's why we're here to help. All right. Reach out to one of us. And again, happy birthday to Paul. Enjoy it. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.